Good evening, folks. Happy Tuesday. It's our later start time than normal. This time ago, it's going to be the audio for this week, but we're here. Nikki Stees, my co-host Agent Warrior, for Week 13 NFL Pick'ems. I'm going to be doing this while eyeing the Sixers game, which is not going too pleasantly for my team right now, as they're getting destroyed by rebounds. And Anthony Blackhead, whatever his name is, he had a phenomenal second quarter. Cole Anthony, but yep, without further ado, we're back. We're on a shortened week before the Thanksgiving Day games, and I'll say this: all the Thanksgiving Day games, they're going to be interesting, and we did have some interesting games last week as well.
Season's greetings and happy holidays. This is your co-host of NFL Pick'ems, Agent Warrior, and I'm here with Nikki Stees. And week 12, my God, this was one of the greatest weeks we have ever seen for the first time in over a couple years. We had multiple upsets. We had overtime action. We had after hours action. We had multiple wins and expected wins. But at this time of holidays, this is the season's greetings to every single NFL fans out there. Now let's start the show off by saying this. My goodness, this was game of the week between Dallas and Philadelphia. What can I say, Nikki? I was right about everything about Dallas. That Dallas team that I mentioned looked perfectly balanced on offense. The defense is a little sluggish, but in the first half of Dallas looks very sluggish.
Yeah, as far as that Eagles game, yikes. I talked about this yesterday. This is going to be the Cliff Notes version. First half, particularly the first quarter and a half, it was looking like the Eagles found their groove, especially because here you go. Eagles got 2 touchdowns early. It's like, all right, Dallas defense struggled all season. Okay, this is the game where they finally get it back together. But then the same problem that's plagued the Eagles happened. One-dimensional play calling with the same player personnel. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Pretty much those 5 players are the main ones. And while they're all talented players, after a while, when you run the same type of plays, which is 5 players, it gets predictable. Defenses have picked up on how to scout them. It's a shame because you still got Jahan Dotson, who's not a number 1, but you could at least use him a little bit more in the offense. You still got Tank Bigsby, who you acquired from the Jaguars. You could utilize him a little bit in the run game, particularly in short yard situations. That's one way to vary up the playbook a little bit. And the second problem, they forced Jalen Hurts to be a pocket passer, but that's not who he is as a quarterback. He's an RPO type of guy. Look at the 2 Super Bowl runs, particularly the first year when that relied on Hurts. RPO was the main thing that got him to the dance. And now Kevin Patullo wants to do a complete 180. Now, to be fair, their defense did solid outside of letting Lamb and Pickens cook. They got a few 4th down stops, but after a while, the offense stalling out, there's only so much the defense can do to save you. And they finally caught up to him at the end.
I'm assuming that Madden curse has started to hit him now.
I mean, for Saquon, yeah, it's been that way all year. You compare him to last year, he's just average at best this season, which he's not bad, but when you're fresh off a 2,000 plus yard all purpose season, like that's the standard for going into the follow-up year, and he's not matched that standard. So this is a significant downgrade. Now, if this were, say, AJ Dillon in the starting role getting same type of numbers, it would have been looked at more respectfully. But when you come from record-breaking year and you just have a mediocre year, people are going to look at it as a downgrade. And the Madden curse in some ways has, like, even for players that aren't injured. Remember Drew Brees the year after the Super Bowl win? Didn't have the best statistical year in the world, even though he played.
Odell Beckham Jr., Patrick Mahomes, he lived up to that Madden hype, I'm assuming.
But that doesn't always happen, and it is part Madden curse, but it's just part terrible personnel, particularly with play calling by the Philadelphia Eagles, where the talent can't bail you out forever. Now they got to play the Chicago Bears, a team who has been getting better offensively as the season goes along. That's a bit of a
And I kid you not, that Eagles offense I mentioned, you should have fired Kevin Patullo a long time ago, ever since that Thursday night football game against the Giants. Speaking of the Giants, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Giants are the first NFL team to be eliminated from the playoff contention. I'm going to put it this way and say that they potentially ruined a power hungry Abdul Carter as soon as Shane Bowen forgot how to defend. And thank goodness for Mike Kafka stepping in and say, you know what, Shane Bowen, you're fired. Hit the back door. And they done that. And they say, you know what, we're gonna have to find a new defensive coordinator by the offseason. Let's just roll with the linebacker as our interim defensive head coach to see what we can do. As for Mike Kafka, he has been very solid. Did you see that play with Jameis Winston, by the way, against the Lions?
yeah,
That
the
was
touchdown
amazing.
pass
That
or catch, I
have
should
you ever
say.
have you ever seen a quarterback becomes a receiver and then ultimately scores a touchdown against the Lions defense? This, in my opinion,
Not
is
in
one of
that
the
fashion.
greatest. This is one of the greatest plays of this year. I'm starting to think a lot of people are getting a lot of attention for the Giants this year in terms of fun teams. Yes, we're a bad team, but not statistically. I see this team more as a fun team better than a tanking team. Look at fun teams around the league like the Brooklyn Nets back in 2019. That was a fun team. 2023 when they traded all their best players, like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. That turned out to be a fun team. But as for this year with Jameis Winston, give him another year or two for extension purposes in terms of mentoring quarterbacks and pretty much helping Jackson Dart send glory to the playoffs. So I really hope, for the Giants' sake, Jackson Dart should come back this week.
Yep, and you brought up a great point about fun teams. I can point to some other teams in more recent years that maybe weren't the best teams, but were fun. The Dolphins, when they had Tua and Hill healthy, they were at least in the playoff mix and they were fun to watch. Never true contenders, but their games were usually exciting and they were a fun team to watch. You could also look at the Cincinnati Bengals when Burrow is healthy. Win or lose, they usually have exciting games that are fun to watch if you're a fan of offensive football. So we've seen, and a lot of times it's usually those middle of the pack teams that usually find a way to make the games entertaining.
In terms of entertaining, I could say that the Giants has to be the funnest team in the league, despite being 2-10. I'm sorry, 2-10. Despite being 2-10, this Giants team looks very good on paper in terms of the offense.
Yeah, that I mean, right there, and that was actually crazy. We had two. I'm pretty sure you probably had it the same. Your local Fox got the Giants, local CBS got the Bears and Steelers, because that's what I had, and we had two fun games out of it. And then you had two
We had the
overtime
Ravens and
games.
Jets.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, gotcha. That makes sense.
So overall, this whole week was nothing more than upsets and, of course, comeback victories.
And I gotta say this though about upsets about the Houston Texans. Their defense is pretty underrated. A lot of people get caught up in CJ Stroud not being there, them not being contenders. But a lot of people forget that they have a really good defense despite their flaws as a team. And they do have 6 wins now. And they took advantage of the mismatch against Buffalo, had 8 sacks, had a phenomenal defensive performance. So, well, I don't think, and plus Buffalo's secondary was banged up. So I don't think Davis Mills is going to have a repeat performance every week. I got to give the defense props. They had themselves an excellent week. And Davis Mills at least had a good week out of it. So we got something out of him, even if it's just 1 week.
You know what they say, Nikki? Defense wins championships. Defense wins championships a lot.
Now, so it's interesting because actually we kicked things off with, because I looked at the playoff standings earlier, the Lions would be the 8th seed if the season ended today, which makes their Thanksgiving matchup against one of their division rivals that much more important, kicking off with the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving.
You know what's crazy? The fact that I will give props to Jamar Gibbs on that 3 touchdown he had was the greatest thing that he ever done. Don't get me wrong, I have sympathy for Lions fans in terms of hope, but as a Giant fan myself, I gotta give props to their deep for their comeback victory against us. Ever since Jameis Winston played his heart out, but that one crucial touchdown interception, which I was no big surprised about. But we got the Green Bay Packers versus the Detroit Lions. The Packers are coming off a dominant win against the Minnesota Vikings. You had Jordan Love doing Jordan Love things. You have other players. You have other players doing their part. But then you have Jared Goff on the other hand. In terms of the offense, they look sluggish. The defense looks sluggish. Everything looks sluggish until the second half. So, I could see this another close matchup. But if I had to choose one, Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, and remember week 1, the Packers defense did a really good job shutting down the Detroit Lions, and their offense hasn't always been the same this year without Ben Johnson. And we saw against the Giants, to their credit, I mean, their offense showed up, but they kind of struggle on the defensive side of the ball. I would not be surprised if the Packers could win this game. But I also got to wonder with the Packers. I feel like this is more of a run team because we've seen before Jordan Love, like, it's usually they're at their best offensively when it's a run first approach in the Jordan Love era with Josh Jacobs. And even the previous week, I wrote it down as a note for my 3-point blitz earlier. It was Emmanuel Wilson had himself a solid day. This could be a bit of a toss up, but I'm going to go with the Lions at home to even out the series on Thanksgiving. Just so I feel like this might be more of a low scoring day game, kind of similar to what we saw when the Eagles played both the Packers and the Lions in terms of low scoring. To me, the Lions win, even it out, and they got to be playing hungry because I saw the standings. It's must win for them at this point, especially against a division rival who's ecking on the door of first place in the division and in the playoff picture, the wild card race. Must win for the Lions. They come in motivated and hungry and get the win. Then we got,
who do you think
teams.
Who do you think will get the turkey leg between the Lions and Packers? Is the real question.
Maybe Jamar Gibbs.
I could say it's going to be close between Jordan Love and Jamar Gibbs. It's going to be close.
And now, speaking of must wins for teams in crucial situations, Kansas City's at 6-5, but they're sitting out in the AFC playoff picture. They're going against the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium.
Now, this is a Thanksgiving matchup. 2 former playoff teams still on the hunt. The Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning defending undisputed AFC champs, versus them boys, Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott was coming off a very impressive victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kansas City Chiefs was coming off the same situation as the Colts. But I will say this. Dallas, I mentioned this last week. Their offense has a better advantage, but this could be a shootout between Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. Yes, you have Travis Kelce. Yes, you have Rashid Rice. You still got Isaiah Pacheco. But it's they still got George Pickens. Who's going to stop George Pickens? No one. George Pickens might outplay the Kansas City secondary. So, if I had to choose one, it's going to be another toss-up. Give me Dallas over Kansas City in overtime. Bold take, Dallas Cowboys will win in overtime.
This is gonna be a good matchup right here. In the Dallas Cowboys, they've really, their offensive side of the ball has been excellent. It's going to be a matchup mainly of the Cowboys offense. How can Kansas City's defense hold up? And on the flip side, is Patrick Mahomes going to be good enough against that Dallas Cowboys defense? Can Kareem Hunt have another Kareem Hunt type day like he did in their win against Indianapolis? It's going to come down to those. Really, it's going to be a battle of the two offenses in this case. So I predict a high-scoring game. But in this one, with Patrick Mahomes back against the wall after a big win, I feel like you can't bet against them. Kansas City's going to get the win in a high-scoring game, and it'll play out similar to the Cowboys-Panthers or the Cowboys-Giants. Well, similar to the Cowboys-Panthers more so, where it's close but no cigars. I get Kansas City winning this game on the road.
And the turkey leg will definitely go to Patrick Mahomes or Dak Prescott.
In that case, Patrick Mahomes for sure. Now, we got one more Thanksgiving game. It's going to be a division rivalry game, the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow's return expected.
Oh boy. Now this is a must-win for Cincinnati. The Bengals versus the Ravens. The Cat team versus the Bird team. The AFC North showdown between those two. Now, Cincinnati was coming off a tough loss against New England because their defense with Christian Gonzalez is officially elite. Joe Burrow now coming back, I could see this as a high-scoring game. But in terms of that, who will get the final turkey leg of this Thanksgiving? I'm sorry to say it, but Baltimore's winning it. Lamar Jackson will get the turkey leg. The final turkey leg, that is.
As far as the turkey leg part, I'm on board. It's going to be Lamar Jackson in this one. And now the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow back, their offense gets a much-needed dynamic in the but this defense is still a historically worse defense. They got the Patriots down to 26, which is manageable and tolerable, but make no mistake about it, though. This Bengals defense is still atrocious, and we've seen in recent weeks the Ravens, now that they're healthy, even though, okay, they didn't have the greatest performance against the Jets, but since Lamar's return, they've instantly played better. We saw against the Texans, who, as we said earlier, are a pretty underrated defense. They had a good game there. The Ravens also went out there against other teams as well. We saw against the Browns. They've done better with Lamar. They've gone on a winning streak. You saw Miami. They destroyed them. So I say against this Bengals defense, Lamar Jackson basically has a scrimmage and gets himself warmed up for December and has a field day, leading the Ravens to 7-5. Keep momentum going in the AFC North, getting ready for their matchups against Pittsburgh. That will ultimately determine the AFC North.
To be fair, I know a lot of people say that Mark Andrews should definitely ball out, but I agree with you, Nikki.
And now moving right along, we got the Eagles versus the Bears at Lincoln Financial Field.
Black Friday. We've seen Black Friday shopping a lot of times for Christmas. We've seen Black Friday games in NBA, but we never seen Black Friday on NFL games. You have the Chicago Bears versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I remember the double doink playoff matchup. That was tough. But this is a completely different team. You have Caleb Williams versus Jalen Hurts. You have Devontae Smith versus Roma Dunze. You got the Devontae. You got Saquon Barkley versus DeAndre Swift, the former Philadelphia native. Now their defense, they gave up too many yards. The defense, including the 21-point lead they had, gave up too many yards. The Eagles gave up too many yards. Period. The offense looked very sluggish. Saquon kept fumbling the ball. The offense kept struggling, and especially the special teams. The special teams struggled majorly. I have never seen such a Eagles fan base that's so delusional that they ended up blowing a 21-point lead against a division rival. Sure, blow a lead against your division rival, but this is a must-win game for you. This is your potential chance of taking the top seed of the NFC. But there's no excuse for you to do that. However, considering yourself going against one of the few top teams in the NFC North, this is a must-win game. So if I had to choose one, say no more. We could see what could happen 2 years ago with that late season collapse. Chicago over Philly because their defense looks amazing, especially with their former Eagles player CJ Gardner Johnson. Caleb Williams is him, and I know this much. Chicago Bears will get redemption.
I would now as a fan, I would love nothing better than the Eagles to put it behind them, wake up, and take it out on the Chicago Bears. But realistically, we know the Eagles haven't been playing up par on the offensive side. Like I said, one-dimensional player personnel and predictable play calling has been the offense's downfall. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears, their defense has racked up several turnovers, has been better at forcing turnovers, as well as Caleb Williams has been showing a spark. And he's been forming chemistry with receivers with an offensive-minded head coach. So the Chicago Bears are getting hot at the right time, while the Philadelphia Eagles are kind of stalling out. They'll probably still win the NFC East, but against the Chicago Bears, this is not a favorable matchup. Even though I hope I'm wrong and I hope the Eagles offense comes out until they start to get it together, I don't trust them. I got the Bears winning this game, going to 9-3, and keeping that momentum going.
I've just noticed something. Do you remember how there was like a school in northern Jersey that there were kids using punching bags as Philadelphia as Dallas Cowboys players?
I saw that.
Guess what? Well, guess what? Dallas came back and they clapped back, saying that you know what, you wanna mock our fan base that we're way more delusional. We got you. Hold my tea, hold my beer, hold my water, whatever you want to call it.
At this point, yeah, there's real no room for trash talking. Moving right along, we got the Cleveland Browns hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Shedeur Sanders' first true test of his rookie season as a starter. He had a nice start with the Raiders. Not great, but it was good enough. You saw why he was a higher prospect than Dillon Gabriel, and it helped lead to a momentum-setting start. But now he's got to play against the 49ers. But the 49ers are down Bosa and Warner, so this could be a good game for the Browns. Maybe get an upset. I mean, especially after last night's performance by the Niners on offense by Brock Purdy. That was an uninspiring performance despite the win.
Yikes. Mac Jones could pretty much be a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. In fact, their offense on paper looks very solid, especially with CMC. But considering how Cleveland played against one of the weaker teams in the AFC, I wonder how Shedeur Sanders does in terms of the 49ers. Don't get me wrong. San Francisco was coming off a strange win, you could say. Brock Purdy pretty much gave up too many interceptions, but I could see this being a close matchup in a low scoring way. San Francisco over Cleveland. Shador might play his heart out, but it's not good enough against the San Francisco secondary.
Yeah,
Sure. Oh yeah. No. I forgot to add one more thing. Miles Garrett might break the record for a single season sack. So they'll still lose either way.
I mean, the Browns, let's face it. I mean, Miles Garrett is clearly the best thing they've had all season long by far, and it's not even close. Now, Shador, I feel like he'll handle this situation better than Dylan Gabriel, but make no mistake about it. He's still a rookie. He still needs time to develop. And you're going against the Niners team, despite their injuries, are an experienced bunch. And you got Christian McCaffrey. I think it'll be a closer, low-scoring game, but I feel like the Niners find a way to win. I feel like Shador just needs a little more experience in these type of games to get himself going. And the Cleveland Browns aren't the best place to start, but it might be I'll say the Niners in a low-scoring game. Moving right
I
along.
could say that for Cleveland, they have a quarterback, but this QB carousel is out of control at this point. Then we got the AFC South showdown between the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward, well, let's just say he's sort of living up to the hype in terms of bust situations. You have Trevor Lawrence still doing his part. That win against Arizona was actually impressive, but there's no excuse. You still gotta do something about this, but there's no excuse. You still gotta finish the job, but you gotta win out against one team, the Indianapolis Colts, and you gotta worry about other teams in the AFC. So this will be the second team to be eliminated from the playoff contention. Jaguars over Titans.
Ooh, yeah, I'm going to go with the Jaguars in this one because under Liam Cohen, they're a better unit and they got a favorable schedule against the Titans, a team with a lot of work to do, a long way to go. The Jacksonville Jaguars, mind you, have a solid defense, and their key player is Josh Hines Allen. Kind of a shame that he's been gilt the same first and last name. If Josh Hines Allen had a different name, people would talk about him more and he'd get the credit he deserves as a player. But unfortunately, he's stuck with the stigma of having that name that a quarterback has in the same era. But the Jaguars as a team, you got Trevor Lawrence. He's solid. I don't think he's the face of the franchise. But against the Titans, though, none of that's going to matter. Give me the Jaguars to win. They're the better team. Titans got a long way to go. Let's move on. Now we actually have an AFC South matchup that actually has some interest. Colts hosting the Texans.
Between Davis Mills and Daniel Jones, I'm not going to waste too much time, but I am going to keep this short and sweet. Houston Texans' strong defense might carry the team. However, the Colts' offense is far more superior. You still got Tyler Warren, you still got Daniel Jones, you still got Jonathan Taylor, but that's pretty much it. Colts over Texans.
Yep, same here. I mean, the Texans, like I said, good defense. Willie Anderson Jr. is one of the best pass rushers of the season, but you got Davis Mills. You're going against the Indianapolis Colts, who, even despite the loss to Kansas City, still had a solid performance. You still got Jonathan Taylor, who has been having pretty much an MVP season, minus the under 60 yards rushing against KC. And Daniel Jones, who still had a solid performance despite the defeat. I got the Colts to win this game. Just not enough. The Texans need those stars on offense, and they don't have it. Now you got the Dolphins versus the Saints.
Since we're in the holidays, It's time to decide who's naughty or nice because Santa Claus might be coming to town next month. Prepare yourselves for the first holiday tank bowl. The New Orleans Saints versus the Miami Dolphins. The New Orleans Saints are coming off a tough loss against the Atlanta Falcons with Kirk Cousins. Yes, you still got him doing icy stuff in terms of the offense, but that's pretty much it. We'll get to that later. Tyler Shug or Spencer Rattler, not too good. I'm gonna say Miami will win the Tank Bowl.
I got the Dolphins to win this game right here. Now, I don't think, although ironically, I think some of these wins might hurt the Dolphins in the long haul, particularly with their draft stake, because now that they got an easier schedule, they could win out some games, which may seem nice now, but in the long haul, I don't think it's going to help them. So I got the Dolphins to win, but the Saints are going to finally get that much needed season where they're picking within the top 3. They can finally try to go get that quarterback. Will they get it? I don't know, but they can at least try. And a win for the Dolphins would actually help the Saints in the long haul. So I feel the Saints win the tank. And we follow that up with another tank bowl. The Jets versus the Kirk Cousins-led Falcons.
The second holiday tank bowl that the football gods gave to us. The Atlanta Falcons versus the New York Jets. The Jets were coming off a tough loss against Baltimore. The Falcons were coming off a great win against the Saints. Kirk Cousins still doing Kirk Cousins things like he was on the Vikings. Meanwhile, the Jets, oh my God. This QB carousel is even worse. It's worse than we saw 2 years ago. It's worse that we saw last season with Aaron Rodgers before he got cut. And it's worse than a couple years ago when they drafted Zach Wilson from BYU. He sucked in BYU. He was never a good quarterback. They should have tanked for Trevor Lawrence instead of just missing out on Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase or what's Tua Tagovailoa. They missed out on 3 quarterbacks in terms of the drafting. And I hope for the Jets' sake, they should sell the team. I'm tired of these Jet fans being so naive against their AFC East division rivals. Just get over the fact that you cannot beat Buffalo. You cannot beat New England. And you sure as hell cannot beat Miami. So, get over it. You're not going to the playoffs anytime soon. This might be your 15th year not making it to the playoffs for the first time since 2010. So say no more. Falcons over Jets. Kirk Cousins will overpower them.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets this season's a lost clause. They failed to do what they should have done during the offseason. Get a long-term quarterback. Instead, they took the bait on Justin Fields' potential, and I think now this is the year people finally realize it was just all flashes in between with some highlight reel plays. Because now the Jets are stuck at 2-9. A veteran Tyrod Taylor, who's had too many injuries to count. And the Falcons, they'll win this game. But in the long term, I will say this. The Falcons are in the worst situation possible. You got Michael Penix, who they drafted last year, which was a questionable pick at the time with his injury history in college. Now he gets some major injuries out for the season. Now you're stuck with Kirk Cousins, who will be going on 38 soon, with a lot of long-term doubts about your future. So even if you win this game and Cousins destroys whatever's left of that Jets defense, it actually helps the Jets more in the long term because it keeps them closer to the number 1 pick. And for the Falcons, it just continues the cycle of a lot of long-term uncertainty. And this
FYI, before we move on, this is literally the same mistake you made back when Ryan Fitzpatrick was on the team. Anyways, now that's officially out of the way, let's get on to the next game, shall we? We got the Arizona Cardinals versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Arizona, well, they almost had it. They almost had it against the Jaguars. But coming up against against an NFC South tank division winner, basically, because every other NFC South team is weak at this point. But I could see Carolina coming back from this. Arizona over Tampa.
You know what? I'm going to think about it because Baker Mayfield sprained his left shoulder. And remember his last season with the Browns. This is very similar to what played out. He injured his non-throwing shoulder, but it clearly messed up his throwing mechanic. The Browns kept playing him anyway, and it ultimately hurt their season in the long haul. And I could see the Cardinals winning this. I think, especially after the way the Bucs lost to the Rams. I get it. The Rams are the best team in the NFC currently, but the way they lost, getting completely obliterated, I got the Bucs as that collapsing team of the season that starts off hot and does a complete 180 downward second half of the season. I'll take the Cardinals in the upset. And speak ironic, next game it's NFC West versus NFC South again.
In fact, to be honest with you, before we get even further, I could ultimately see two teams having late season collapses: the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up, Los Angeles Rams versus the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young he did pretty solid, but they squandered multiple opportunities last night, as far as I'm concerned. But considering you're going up against one of the top defenses in the league, no. Matt Stafford doing Matt Stafford things, but T Mac is still a great wide receiver for the Panthers. They still got a bright future, but I'm gonna say give Bryce Young some help a little bit more. So Rams over Panthers.
Oh boy. This is the worst thing that could happen to the Panthers, but being in the NFC South at this time of year could also be the best thing that happened for them. But in this game, the Rams annihilate the Panthers and continue to prove and continue their grip on the NFC and build more momentum heading to the playoffs. The Rams are looking like they might be contenders in the NFC, even with Matthew Stafford getting closer to 40. They just have such an excellent team on both sides of the ball that they could this could be the perfect momentum setter to just keep that momentum going, get to 10 wins on the season. And for the Panthers, well, I don't think it's going to go too well for them this week.
We could see the Rams winning the NFC, becoming Super Bowl contenders like they did 3 years ago when the Dodgers won the World Series. We could also see a great outcome to this too.
Yep, and then we're moved. All right.
So next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Seattle Seahawks. Oh boy, I really don't know what to say about JJ McCarthy at this point. I don't even know why they even drafted him at the first place. They should have waited like next year or two for like Arch Manning or Fernando Mendoza or flipping what's that quarterback's name? Ty Simpson. They should have waited for Ty Simpson. They should have waited for Fernando Mendoza, and they could have waited for Justin Sand from Ohio State, and they could have waited for other quarterbacks. Seattle, let's say that JSN is still becoming the best receiver on the team, replacing DK Metcalf. Sam Darnold, he's coming off a great win against the Titans. I don't even know why the Titans even what should be the first team eliminated from the playoff contention. It should be the Titans and the Giants eliminated. But say no more. Seattle over Minnesota because Sam Darnold should have the slight advantage over Max.
Yep. And there's another key element to this, the revenge game for Sam Darnold. The Vikings, looking at it from the perspective of McCarthy's younger, they felt like he had more potential for the future. And now they're like, so for Darnold, there's some motivation here to get back at the Vikings to prove they made a mistake by sticking with JJ McCarthy, which has already been evident, but this game could just rub salt in the wound and could help build momentum for the Seahawks going into the playoffs, because the Vikings, while their defense has been solid at times, it's gotten to the point where I feel like their offense is so bad that the defense is to low-key mentally conceding a little bit. Because once it gets to a point where the offense can't do anything, I feel like a lot of teams' defenses mentally concede with the mindset of what's the point of trying to help if you guys can't do anything. That might be what we're kind of seeing here with the Vikings. And with Jackson Smith, Sam Darnold, and that team, oh, give me the Seahawks to destroy the Vikings, move on, and make the Vikings regret their JJ McCarthy decision.
They should have kept JJ McCarthy. They should have kept Sam Darnold before they took JJ McCarthy. And plus, I'm starting to think that JJ McCarthy is a bust. I know Michigan Wolverines are known as Big Ten juggernauts, but as for this quarterback, no. Sorry.
Yeah, so definitely not in this case. And now we got an interesting game. Bills versus Steelers.
You know what's crazy? A lot of people, including myself, want the Bills to win the division. But in terms of surprising teams we talked about weeks ago, the Patriots have their number. But this season, for Buffalo, look like it's a fall from grace. Pittsburgh, well, they're coming off a tough loss against Chicago. They were this close, but TJ Watt has surpassed his older brother, JJ Watt. But considering how Aaron Rodgers plays out in terms of Josh Allen, we've seen this time and time again with especially what happened 2 years ago in the playoffs. But considering this, I could see a close game. But the winner of this, Buffalo should bounce back if the Steelers defense doesn't let them allow more yards.
I think the Bills. I mean, the Steelers, it's an interesting matchup. You got on one hand, the Buffalo Bills on paper are the far better team, hence why 87% of people pick them. But after an embarrassing performance against the Houston Texans and seeing their secondary get exposed, they've had 3 bad weeks, because even in the win against Tampa, it was a high-scoring game. Their defense didn't really help. And the first upset in those 2 out of 3 games where they had upset losses was against Miami, who did a good job against their secondary. I think the Steelers, maybe in this case, DK Metcalf ends up having a solid game. Not to mention, Kenneth Gainwell did pretty solid for them in the run game. And with the Buffalo Bills offensive line struggling, this might be a game where the Steelers defense rebounds and they take the upset. So if I'm going to take one upset this week, I'll go with the Steelers to beat the Bills.
And don't get me wrong, Steelers are a well-run organization, but I'm hearing a lot of rumors that Mike Tomlin might be departing with the Steelers. If this is true, the Giants should go after him. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West showdown. Not going to waste too much time on this, but Chargers over Raiders. And they just fired their offensive coordinator who got paid a lot of money, and they decided to terminate him because their O-line really struggled. So Justin Herbert will be a far better quarterback than Geno Smith.
Yeah, I'm going to stick right to it. Give me the Chargers to win this game. Their bye week was nice to regroup after the Jacksonville game. You get the perfect bounce back game against the Raiders. I don't see why the Chargers shouldn't win this game. You have Justin Herbert. You have a coach that knows how to utilize different running backs. Moving right along. This is a game that we thought would have been great entering the season, but looks like it's going to be a snooze fest, a one-sided snooze fest as well.
I honestly feel bad for Commanders fans. But Denver Broncos versus Washington Commanders. I'm not going to be too surprised about this, but this offense really struggled, especially with Marcus Mariota having crucial turnovers. Sometimes when it comes to NFL veteran quarterbacks, their one golden problem is this, and that is their Achilles heel: turnovers, interceptions. That's pretty much it. Denver over Washington because they have a far better offense than the Commanders have.
Yeah, give me the Broncos in this one. Commanders are they're too old and they have the worst situation possible with Jaden Daniels being out. Now you got the Broncos, have a phenomenal defense. Nick Bonita's having a great season. Patrick Surtain's phenomenal. And the Broncos are just a much better all-around team. Pretty straightforward. They should win this game. I don't see how Washington wins this one. I just don't. And then to close it out, we got Patriots versus Giants.
You know, I've been waiting to talk about this. Speaking of the New England Patriots, this was once the greatest Super Bowl of all time. The greatest two teams that most hatred for sports cities, New York and Boston. You got the New York Giants versus the New England Patriots. Now, I know I saw this Tom Grossi video a while back about the Patriots coming back as the new empire for the AFC. We've seen this time and time with Tom Brady and stuff, but this is a completely different team, and I'm very impressed with Drake May. Drake May is one of those quarterbacks that we've seen college QBs played phenomenal in college bowls. But considering the O-line with Will Campbell out and a few key players out, I really don't know if this is going to protect Drake May against the Giants defense, who has been very sluggish. The Giants were coming off yet another tough loss against the Detroit Lions. Jameis Winston, I'm going to say this. He is a really fun quarterback to watch. Rather you have him on the Saints, Browns, Tampa, Los Angeles, Philly, whatever you want him on, he could be a good quarterback for you. But there's one crucial golden rule that everyone's been talking about, and that's their Achilles heel: turnovers and interceptions. Now, if Jackson Dart comes back from a concussion protocol, this could be a completely different story. But this is on December. Keep in mind that this is on the final month of 2025. So, if Jackson Dart comes back from a concussion protocol, this could be a shootout. But if I had to choose one, it's going to be very close between those two in terms of situations like these in the first half. The first half, you have the Giants scoring. The first half, you have the Giants scoring. You have the Patriots scoring. You have the Patriots still having a great defense with Christian Gonzalez, but going up against Stephon Diggs, Trayvon Henderson, Lavondre Stevenson, I don't think so. Yes, you have Malik Neighbors out for the year and Cam Scottaboo out for the year, but with Jackson Dart and Wan'Dale Robinson had an amazing game. So if I had to choose one, it's going to be a toss-up between those two. And the winner of this is an upset. Giants over Patriots.
In this one, at this point, maybe the Giants do get Jackson Dart back, and that could help them out. And there's obviously the history between the Giants and Patriots, two Super Bowl matchups against each other, which also tied into the great Brady versus Manning rivalry, being that it was Peyton Manning's younger brother. But as fun as that was, this one right here, it's going to be a different story here. Yeah, well, the Giants have had the Patriots numbers in big games in the past. I don't know. This go around, Patriots have momentum going in their favor. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a competitive game and it's close, but I still got the Patriots winning this one. Giants do make it competitive, but ultimately the Pats find a way to get a win and keep that momentum going in the AFC.
Now, as
So,
for the New York Giants momentum, I could see this happening next season when Malik Neighbors comes back. When you have Cam Scottaboo coming back after two crucial injuries, this is going to be a completely different team. But as for the Patriots and Giants, they have a very good history in terms of you remember that game in Super Bowl 42, especially
yes.
with that helmet catch. That helmet catch was one of the greatest catches of all time in the Super Bowl. You have Mario Manningham in 2011, where we basically won the tank division at that time, and you had a really solid defense. And you know what they say? Defense wins championships. I said it a couple times. Defense wins championships. And to be honest with you, considering how they played out against the Patriots and the New England Patriots and the New York Giants, they have a really good history with each other in terms of the Brady and Manning. But this time, if Jackson Dart comes back, it'll be just like they had back then when we made it competitive but ultimately lose. But Jackson Dart is 1-0 in primetime games. If he comes back, this is going to be a different matchup. Don't forget, New England, you may have you may have owned every single AFC East team, but the one team you can't beat is the Giants. Yes, we may lose to you on Monday night on a final month in December, but we still know how to beat you very well. But don't forget, when Jackson Dart comes back, it'll be just like the old Star Wars classic between Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. But instead of that, you have Drake May versus Jackson Dart, aka Darth Vader.
Yeah, but it's funny because he looks like Anakin Skywalker, the
Facts.
prequels
He even
before.
he even loved the Star Wars movies when he was younger.
It's where he got the influence from. But now ultimately, we just gotta wait and see what happens. I feel like this week, hey, they put all the most of the exciting games going into it are coming early. I'm not gonna say good games because we don't know yet. You could have Lions Giants. We didn't think would be that special of a game. It ends up being one of the better games of the week. So I will say
Flipping
this:
heck,
the
even
most
Amara St. Brown agrees that the Giants are a good team. They just had bad coaching, and that's the problem.
right. So the point is, I will say this time around, the most intriguing games entering the week are the Thanksgiving and Friday game. Those four games during that stretch are the most intriguing. Sunday, this is where I hope that games, some of these games are the opposite of what we expect them to be.
And you know what? I'm not going to talk too much trash about the Patriots, but to be honest with you, the Patriots this whole year so far looks like a Super Bowl contender. They could pretty much surpass pretty much every team, including the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. But ultimately, I think the Kansas City Chiefs might squeeze into the playoffs if they win out. So my thing is this: the Kansas City Chiefs may have gotten themselves a really good matchup against Dallas, but ultimately we mentioned Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. But my hot take is this: on Monday Night Football, Jameis, Jameis or Dart might start off like they did last week. And I'm going to say that it could be a really good matchup between those two. Yes, we could have famous Jameis, we could have Darth Vader, but whatever we could have, it's going to be really good. And I'll be getting ready for the Patriots and Giants game on Monday night. Now, as for the Friday game between the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles, I think the Bears are a far more superior team than the Eagles. If the Eagles could get the job done, then we can continue having conversations about Philadelphia being a Super Bowl contender again. But as far as I'm concerned, not this time at the moment. If Kevin Patullo can play his cards right, then we could talk about that.
And I just thought about a possibility with the Bears' Achilles on weakness being their linebacking core. Saquon might have a better performance this week, so they might be able to get the run game going a little bit if they can exploit that weakness of their defense. But in recent weeks, we've seen their ability to force takeaways has improved. We've seen this Bears defense has come a long way. That can work out great for the Bears against a one-dimensional offense to date. And that's why I see the Bears winning this game. Even though I hope I'm wrong and I want the Eagles to win, put it behind them, realistically, I got to face the possibility the Bears could beat us.
We also mentioned earlier that the Los Angeles Rams, being one of the strongest teams in the NFC, and I mentioned this could be the same situation what they have with Los Angeles sports in terms of winning championships. We had the Dodgers winning back-to-back championships. Now, could they do the same thing like the Dodgers did in 2025? We may never know come 2026. But until then, this offense and defense looks perfectly balanced, especially with the two legendary last names, McVay and Shula. Rumor has it that Chris Shula, by the end of the season or the offseason, could be the next candidate for the Giants head coach. Now, I don't really know about that, but I want to see how that turns out.
Yeah, but that's all. Hey, that's all. It'll always give us something to talk about during the offseason and speculate. But time will tell on that. Now, for this week, I'm hoping that we at least get one or two good Sunday games, even though it doesn't look great on paper. But who knows? Maybe stranger things happen. I think Steelers are possibly the upset of the week against the Bills, with their offensive line collapsing in recent weeks and their secondary struggling 3 back-to-back weeks. This might be a favorable matchup for the Steelers, who they always seem to find a way to win just enough games to have a respectable season, or at least finish in the playoff hunt, even if they don't make it. And I feel like for Buffalo, they missed out on their golden opportunity while the Patriots were down.
And not only that, but the next thing I want to talk about is the Giants defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. They should have fired him a long time ago after that Broncos game. In terms of that late season, in terms of that collapse that they had, was inexcusable. They should have done that a long time ago, ever since then. And they potentially ruined a power-hungry Abdul Carter, which a lot of people got Abdul Carter as the best defender. But as far as I'm concerned, the Giants defensive coordinator interim coach could revive the defensive game for now. But until then, let's see how that plays out for the rest of the week. So, Mets, thank you for joining, and thank you all for watching. I'm your co-host, Agent Warrior X with Nikki Steves. Bye for now, and happy holidays.
Catch y'all next week.